Shedeur Sanders just said what nobody else had the guts to say out loud, and the internet still hasn't recovered. Tom Brady put his hands where they had absolutely no business being. The video detonated across every platform in under an hour, and now the youngest Sanders is standing at the center of a firestorm that has nothing to do with football and everything to do with power, respect, and the kind of family loyalty that cannot be bought, borrowed, or broken. Before we dive deeper, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a second of this unfolding QB drama. Nobody fires back like a Sanders. Nobody. And the way Shedeur handled this moment with ice in his veins and steel in his spine tells you everything you will ever need to know about who this young man truly is. Stay locked in, because this story cuts far deeper than any headline is willing to go. Rewind the clock, because if you don't understand how we got here, you are going to miss the full picture, and the full picture is absolutely wild. Deion Sanders has been one of the most polarizing, magnetic, and impossible to ignore figures in American sports for 30 years. And love him or despise him, neutrality is simply not an option with primetime. He built his entire brand on commanding every room, every stage, every sideline, every camera pointed anywhere near him, and that gravitational force served him extraordinarily well, turning him into a Hall of Famer, a cultural icon, and the kind of man who could walk into a struggling college football program with nothing but his name and his will, and transform it overnight into a national conversation nobody could stop talking about. But here is the uncomfortable truth about being the man who owns every room he walks into. Eventually, you step into one where somebody decides they are not going to sit down, stay quiet, and let you run it. And apparently that somebody turned out to be Tom Brady. Now let's be surgical about what we are actually discussing, because the media has already spun this story in 17 different directions, and the overwhelming majority of those takes are completely burying the real point. This is not simply a beef between two famous sports figures. This is not a ratings grab. This is not two oversized egos colliding at some league function and letting vanity steer the car. What happened between Tom Brady and Deion Sanders escalated into something nobody in that room saw coming. And when the footage hit social media, the reaction was not slow or measured. It was immediate, massive, and everywhere at once, with comment sections transforming into war zones within 60 minutes. Because people were genuinely stunned, not by the existence of a confrontation, but by who was standing at the center of it. Tom Brady, the most composed, most calculated, most relentlessly media-trained athlete of his entire generation, the man who spent 23 seasons in the NFL without a single significant controversy ever attaching to his name, that Tom Brady caught in a physical confrontation with Deion Sanders on camera for the entire world to see and replay indefinitely. Hold on though, because it gets considerably worse before it gets better. Brady and Deion go back decades. They entered the league in the same era, built Hall of Fame legacies on parallel tracks, and for years maintained a visible and publicly demonstrable mutual respect every time they shared a stage or a broadcast desk. No open hostility, no documented history of conflict, just two men who had stared across the field of elite competition long enough to recognize greatness in each other. So the question burning in your mind right now should be the obvious one. What changed? What Shedeur said publicly tells you exactly where his head is at. You should know, history repeats itself over and over, and I've done it over and over. So it should be no question why any NFL franchise should pick me. You think I'm worried about what critics say? You know who my dad is. They hated on him too. The betrayal in the air is deafening. But hold tight, because it gets even messier from here. Brady eventually broke his silence, and the reason all of this reached its boiling point comes down to one name, Shedeur Sanders, and more specifically the NFL draft process surrounding him. Because once Shedeur's name climbed to the very top of draft boards and scouting room conversations shifted from whether this kid was talented enough to which franchise would be lucky enough to land him, the politics entered the equation hard. And the politics of the NFL draft are dirtier than most people watching from the outside ever get close enough to see. It is not purely about talent evaluation. It never has been. It is about control, about which players enter the league on whose terms, about which families carry influence into the building, and which ones get quietly managed and kept in line. And the Sanders family, with Deion leading from the front, was never going to be a family that accepted quiet management from people who had not earned that right. Brady, now positioned as a franchise stakeholder, embedded directly inside those conversations, with access to the rooms, the debates, and the internal evaluations, began generating reports that he and Deion were not aligned on several specific matters tied to Shedeur's situation, with people close to both camps describing the disagreement as heated and private and confirming the temperature between these two men had been rising steadily for weeks before any of it became visible to the public. And then came the confrontation. But here is where the entire narrative flips completely on its head. And this is the part the mainstream sports media absolutely refuses to give Shedeur the credit he deserves for. When the video dropped and the internet detonated, every camera and microphone immediately pivoted toward the Sanders family, with lenses trained and fingers ready, waiting for a reaction they could package into the next 24-hour news cycle, because this is the media's oldest and most reliable trap. They manufacture the chaos, torch the environment, then point every available lens at the people closest to the blaze and wait for somebody emotional enough, rattled enough, young enough to say something that can be clipped, stripped of context, and weaponized as the next headline. Shedeur Sanders is 23 years old, entering the NFL for the first time, carrying the weight of an enormous fan base, navigating a draft process that has been anything but clean. With his father now at the center of a viral confrontation with one of the most powerful men in professional football, and by every conceivable measure, this was a moment engineered to break someone and make them say something combustible that could be used against them for the next 5 years, before their career even begins. Shedeur did not give them a single usable frame. What he gave them instead was something exponentially more powerful and far harder to manufacture, speaking with total clarity and unmistakable composure, addressing the reality of what happened without letting it swallow him whole, defending his father not with aggression or recklessness, but with the kind of measured, grounded strength that no media training session can install in a person. Because either that quality lives inside you, or it does not. And in Shedeur Sanders, it lives there in remarkable abundance, making it clear without ambiguity that the Sanders family does not fold, that coming after his father goes addressed every time, but also that his focus remains completely on football and on the future he is building, and that no volume of manufactured drama or political maneuvering was going to pull him off the path he is locked onto. The internet recognized that response immediately, because people know authenticity when it is standing directly in front of them. And what Shedeur demonstrated was not the behavior of someone rattled, but the behavior of someone who has been preparing for exactly this level of pressure his entire life. Now, Brady's side matters too, and context must remain everything, because his involvement is complicated by the fact that he no longer simply occupies the identity of athlete. He is ownership. He is business. He carries financial interests and intricate political relationships inside NFL infrastructure that require constant, careful management. And when you exist in that position, every move carries institutional weight that ripples outward in ways most people, watching from outside, never perceive. So the real question, cutting through all the noise, is not what happened in that confrontation, but what preceded it. What was said in rooms we were not in. What line got crossed that pushed the most controlled human being to ever play quarterback in NFL history to a place where physical confrontation entered the picture at all. Because that does not come from nowhere. And when that information surfaces, and it will, this entire story is going to look fundamentally different than it does today. The people rushing to blame Deion entirely, building a narrative around Primetime's ego refusing to stay in its assigned lane, are operating with a dangerously incomplete picture. And Shedeur knows it, which is precisely why he responded with chess moves instead of chaos. Because here is the dimension. almost nobody in the mainstream conversation is stopping long enough to seriously examine. Shedeur Sanders entering the NFL was never just a football story, not from the beginning. And from the moment he stepped onto the field at Colorado and started producing numbers that made scouts physically lean forward in their chairs, this became a story about what the league does when a player arrives. Already carrying power, already validated, already holding a platform that extends far beyond any football field. And the NFL has a historically fraught relationship with that specific type of player that has not always been honest or fair, with the draft process deployed as a mechanism of control more times than anyone in a league office will ever publicly acknowledge. And when a player and his family refuse to be controlled and arrive with their own unapologetic, immovable presence, the machine pushes back with everything it has, which is exactly what we are watching unfold around Shedeur in real time. The whisper campaigns appearing from nowhere, the manufactured questions about character and coachability emerging despite years of evidence pointing in the exact opposite direction, and now a viral confrontation involving his father dropped at the precise moment. It could inflict maximum damage, right at the threshold of the most consequential professional moment of his life. And none of this is coincidental. What makes Shedeur genuinely formidable and a legitimate threat to every narrative being constructed against him is that he refuses to be consumed by the role of victim inside somebody else's story. He walks into the fire, says what the moment demands, and goes directly back to work. And that is a rare quality at any age. The quality of someone built for a long, successful career in this league, regardless of which round his name gets called, regardless of which franchise takes him, regardless of how many insiders or anonymous sources try to obstruct the road ahead. The tape is real. The talent is undeniable. The mental toughness Shedeur has put on display, not just on the field, but in moments of extreme public pressure, exactly like this one, is completely and verifiably real. And the NFL is going to have to reckon with that whether it wants to or not. Brady moves on. The viral moment gets replaced by the next one. The noise fades the way it always does. But Shedeur Sanders is going to be behind a center somewhere in this league, making plays, making history, and proving every single doubter wrong. And that outcome is not up for debate. So drop it in the comments right now. Do you genuinely believe the NFL is deliberately trying to derail Shedeur Sanders before he takes a single professional snap? Or is this simply the unavoidable price of being a Sanders in a league that has never once figured out how to handle that much power walking unapologetically through its front door? Because I think you already know the answer. And I think Shedeur does too. So, don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let's begin.